Hey guys, what's going on? It's Andy Baker of andybaker.com and owner of Kingwood Strength and Conditioning. And we're going to come to you today with a little how-to video on the incline barbell bench press. Okay, so this is a very popular exercise in some circles, not so popular in other circles. So we're going to kind of clear up a little bit today of one, how to do the exercise, how to program the exercise, and why you might even choose to do the exercise in the first place. In other words, some of the benefits of doing the exercise. So let's actually start there of why would you want to do an incline barbell press, okay, as opposed to just doing, say, a flat bench press in combination with a standing overhead shoulder press, okay? Why would you pick an incline press, which is kind of in the intermediate angle between a flat press and a standing press, okay? So here's the reason. One, let's think back to the previous lecture that I did on the role of assistance exercises. And for me, the role of any supplemental or assistance exercise is to improve the performance of one of the parent exercises, okay? So for a general purpose barbell-based strength program, our parent exercises are going to be the squat, the deadlift, the bench press, and the overhead press. Those are really the big four of strength, mass, and power. So when we select assistance movements or supplemental exercises, we do so keeping in mind that we want to select exercises that are not just in and of themselves, but they're a means to an end. They're a means to increasing our performance on one of the big four. So for me, I always look for exercises that are good, what I call indicator exercises. In other words, if I make progress on this lift, will it reliably translate to progress on one of the big four exercises, okay? And so to a degree, this is going to be a little bit individual because some exercises, some assistance movements and some supplemental movements carry over really, really well for some individuals and not so well for others, okay? Different reasons for that might just be your individual build. Okay, so your individual build might influence where you're weak at on a certain exercise. Other things would just be your level of training advancement. I know, like, let's just take me for instance on the deadlift. I'm not a great deadlifter, but I can usually get some pretty reliable progress on my deadlift when I consistently train and make progress on my stiff-legged deadlift. So stiff leg deadlifts for me are a very reliable indicator exercise of how I might progress in my deadlift. For me, rack pulls are less reliable, okay? So I've done training cycles before where I've made a lot of progress on my rack pulls, and then I've gone back to testing my deadlift, and for whatever reason, it just didn't carry over that well. Or maybe it carried over a little bit, but maybe not worth all the time and effort that I put into that particular exercise. So I look for good indicator exercises. For me, the incline bench press has always been a very, very good indicator exercise. And it's not just with me, it's also with a lot of my clients that I've worked with here in the gym as well as online, that incline bench press is when you can make some good progress on this movement, not just in one workout, but over a period of, say, 12 weeks, 6 months, a longer period of time. When you can make some good, reliable progress on this movement, it's going to carry over oftentimes to both your bench press and your press. Okay, so that's the main reason I like this movement, is it's a great 2-for-1 exercise. Okay, so not only is it, it's probably got more in common with the bench press than it does the overhead press, just because you kind of have this interface of the bench between you and the ground, whereas the press, it's just kind of you and the barbell out in open space. But it does carry over because of the angle being more inclined like that. It does carry over a little bit to the press. So anytime that I make some really, really good runs of progress on the incline bench press, usually I have some very reliable progress also on the flat bench press and the overhead press. So that's reason number one, is it's a very good indicator lift for me, as well as for a lot of people that I work with. It's not for everybody, okay? Some people train the incline, they take it up, they put 20, 30, 40 pounds on the incline, and their bench and their press just doesn't move all that well. So, at the end, it's one of those things that you just got to do with a little bit of trial and error. Put some time and effort into it. You can't just do it for a couple of workouts and then either be completely bought and sold on it or completely write it off. You got to spend, I'd say a minimum of 12 weeks really working hard at it and really trying to eke out as much strength and progress out of this lift as you can before you determine whether it's a useful tool in your toolkit, okay? The other benefit of doing an incline press, and this doesn't necessarily apply to everybody. I know that a lot of people watching this are primarily concerned with just increasing their strength and performance and not necessarily physique training. But a lot of guys that I work with do have, even if they're not, quote, bodybuilders, they have physique concerns as well, and they would like to improve the look of their physique in addition to improving their strength and their performance. And the incline barbell press can do a really good job of that. So when we talk about kind of just the look of the upper body, obviously the chest is one of the first muscle groups that we see. And a lot of times that upper chest, you hear this a lot in bodybuilding circles, that the upper chest or that clavicular head of the chest, okay, it's really not separate muscle groups, it's really one major muscle group. But when you'll notice that if you've never trained inclines before and you put some time into them, that you will see the musculature of the chest start to take on a little bit of a different shape. And all you're really doing is you're not training different muscle groups, you're just kind of maximizing the development of certain areas of that muscle group that aren't necessarily hit as hard on flat bench press variations or dips, things like that we may do more of. So if you spend some time doing this movement, you are going to see that upper part of the chest start to develop more. The chest will take on a look of being a little bit wider, and that can have some kind of significant visual impacts, if you will, on the look of your physique, as well as adding a little bit of thickness to the delt area, in addition to all of your overhead work. Okay, so there's some physique benefits to doing the incline press. You'll notice if you spend some time in bodybuilding circles that for a lot of more advanced bodybuilders, they spend a lot more time doing incline work than they do doing flat or decline work, because so many of them lag development in the upper chest area, and when they can develop that area more, it has a much more pronounced visual impact on the overall look of their physique. So there's that. Okay, another reason that I like these, and this is kind of specific to my practice here at my gym here in Kingwood, is I work with a lot of older clients. So a good portion of the client base that I work with is age 55 all the way up to like 85. Okay, and when you work with an older demographic, what you're going to find is you have a lot of shoulder limitations. Okay, a lot of orthopedic limitations in the shoulder joint. A lot of that is just due to arthritis. Okay, so what happens is certain ranges of motion produce a lot of pain and discomfort. Oftentimes range of motion is going to be incomplete. I'd almost say that more often than not, complete range of motion in the shoulder girdle is limited in your older adult populations. Okay, so a lot of the exercises that some of us younger trainees take for granted being able to do, so overhead shoulder presses, flat bench presses, a lot of your older clients are not able to do those. They either cannot do them at all, or they can't do them without a significant amount of pain. And so a lot of times with your pressing exercises, there's always a challenge of finding a pressing exercise that an older client can both do and do pain-free and make some progress on. And it's not always a given that they can do a flat bench press and an overhead barbell press. So a lot of times we have to use things like specialty bars with different grips, or we have to use dumbbell exercises. But a lot of times I have success if a client can't do a flat bench press or an overhead press, one or the other, I can have them do an incline press. And a lot of times inclines work really, really well with the older population. So if you're a coach or a trainer and you work a lot with older clients, you know what I'm talking about in terms of shoulder mobility limitations. Experiment with incline presses and see if they can do those pain-free, and it might be a lift that you're able to spend a little bit more time on and actually build some strength up in that range of motion. So when you're working with the older clients, it's not just, a lot of times it's problems orthopedically with the shoulder joint, it's arthritis, it's pain in the flat bench. Sometimes that can be correctable with a narrower grip and tucking the elbows. You can correct it there. Sometimes it can't be, and clients just can't do a flat bench, and they can't do an overhead press because they don't have the range of motion to actually extend overhead with weight. So an incline press is something you can do kind of in that intermediate angle. Another thing that people don't think about until you've actually worked with an older population is that laying clients down on their back can often be problematic, especially for older trainees that may also be overweight. A lot of lower back pain, a lot of lower back discomfort, and they may also sometimes have blood pressure issues that make lying down on their back and training under a load problematic, okay? And sometimes those can be alleviated with having them do incline bench presses instead of flat bench presses. So if you have a new client that you're trying to work with, maybe they're a little bit older, a little bit overweight, and deconditioned, and you try to lay them down on a flat bench and they're complaining quite a bit about their lower back or the top of their hip being in a lot of pain and discomfort, just try moving it up to a 30 to 45 degree incline press and see if that doesn't alleviate some of the pain, and that might be a better option than a flat press. Same thing if you lay them down flat and then sit them back up, especially if you do it rather quickly. A lot of your older clients will get very dizzy. They'll have blood pressure issues from going from a laying position to standing back up very quick. They're not used to doing that. Sometimes over time, those types of issues will go away, sometimes not. And if you're training people in a commercial setting, you don't want to have older clients dizzy and disoriented in your gym. So that's a bad thing. So you would go ahead and have them try an incline press and having their head not so far back and then not having to sit up. Quite such a drastic change in angles can sometimes be a little bit less problematic. So those are some reasons why I like the incline press. And now we're going to move on how to program them and how to perform the exercise itself. All right, guys, so now we're going to go into how to actually perform the incline bench press. So there's two major mistakes I think that most people make on an incline bench. So I've had people tell me before, I've tried doing inclines before and I could just never get them to feel right. They always felt awkward, or they always bothered my shoulder, or they kind of always felt off balance or something like that. And two major issues that usually pop up. The first is an improper setup, okay? So a lot of people that are watching this already know how to kind of set up on a bench press. The incline bench press is no different, okay? So when you lay down, one of the first things that you're gonna wanna do is set your shoulder blades up behind you. So just like on a flat bench press, one of the most important aspects of the lift is to retract your shoulder blades up underneath you and then hold them there for the duration of the lift, okay? So shoulder blades are gonna be tucked up underneath you. You're gonna create an arch in your lower back just like you would on a flat bench press, okay? So we know on a flat bench press when we lay down, we don't just lay down and have our back completely flush with the bench. We keep our shoulder blades in contact with the bench, we keep our butt in contact with the bench, but we have a little bit of an arch there in our lower back. And the same is true on the incline bench press. But what I've noticed is a lot of people don't do that. They just kind of lay down flat in the bench, like they're just kind of chilling out in the gym and relaxing, but they don't develop the same tightness and the same setup that they do on a flat bench press. So take your time with the setup. I'll show you here in a minute when I hop on here how to do this, but you're gonna pull your shoulder blades up underneath you. You're gonna kind of squeeze your shoulder blades down towards your butt and create a little bit of an arch in your back, and then you're gonna pull your feet up underneath you so that everything is very, very tight, just like it would be in a flat bench press. The other big mistake that people make is they lower the bar down to the wrong place. I've seen a lot of people that try to lower the bar down to the same place that they lower it to on a bench press. So we know on a bench press, we're typically gonna lower it down somewhere here, kind of in the lower part of the chest, or like right at the tip of the breastbone. That's not where we lower it down on an incline bench press. On an incline bench press, we're gonna lower it down right here, right at the base of, or just underneath the collarbone is about where we want to lower the bar to. I've got a little tip that I'll show you here in a minute when I get on the bench about how to find the right spot to lower the bar down to so that you're not kind of hitting in different parts of the chest every rep. You'll see a lot of guys do that. You see guys do that on bench press too, where they kind of inconsistently hit the bar on different spots on their chest during the set, and that's never good. You want to be consistent with your bar placement. But if you hit the bar on an incline, if you set the bar down low here, it's going to create kind of a circular bar path like this, where you're going to have to lower it down out in front of you in order to hit the bottom of your chest, and then you're going to have to loop it back up in order to lock it out. And that's not what we want to do on an incline press. That's a very inefficient range of motion. Okay, so we want to move the barbell in a straight vertical path, straight up and down, and that's going to mean that you're going to be hitting the barbell up here in the upper chest, just below the collarbone. As far as grip width, there's different grips that you can take, just like on a bench press. If you want to kind of hit more of the chest and train it to carry over to the bench press, as well as handle maximum poundages, you're going to take a little bit wider grip. Okay, so like for me, this would be like pinkies on the reins is typically where I would train this lift at. If you want it, if you're you want to introduce some incline presses because you want to use it as a tool to maybe get your overhead press unstuck, then you can move your grip in. You can train this with a medium grip, which would be maybe like thumb's distance from the smooth here, or half a thumb's distance from the smooth, or just wherever you take your press grip. When you do your overhead presses, you can grip the barbell here, all the way into doing a close grip incline press with the index finger right here where the smooth meets the rough. Okay, so there's just like on the bench press, there's kind of a spectrum there of where you can set your hand position up. When I demonstrate here today, I'm just going to do it with my standard grip, which is pinkies on the ring, so a little bit of a wider grip. Okay, so let's take a look at how we set these up. Okay, so again, right now, this is how most people set up for an incline press. They just kind of lay down, and then they go ahead and grab the bar and start doing the exercise. But this is not tight enough. Okay, you're still not properly set up. So what we want to do, pull the feet up underneath you, bridge up, and pull your shoulder blades up underneath you, and then also down, okay, towards your butt. So that if you were to reach underneath your back here with your arm, okay, you'd be able to fit your fist underneath your low back. So shoulder blades are retracted underneath you, and then walk down the bench a little bit so that you've got a good arch in your back, and your shoulder blades stay pinned underneath you. Okay, from here, we're going to go ahead and take our grip. Okay, it's probably better if you have a spotter, but if not, then you can just do it like this. Unrack. Now, what I do is I tuck my chin down, and then I lower the barbell just to the point of my chin. And back up. And that's an incline barbell press. All right, guys, so now let's talk about how we might go about programming incline barbell bench presses. Where do they fit into your typical training program? So I'll tell you one of my favorite ways to use the incline bench press, and you guys have heard me reference this before on some of my other videos. You guys know that I do a lot of heavy, light, and medium training programs for those that like to do full body, 3-day per week workouts. I'm a big fan of the heavy, light, medium system. For your pressing category of exercises, the incline bench press makes a really, really good medium day exercise. Okay, so what we're looking for on medium days is exactly that. It's a medium dose of stress. So the barbell bench press is obviously the flat bench press is obviously the heaviest pressing exercise that we do. So that's usually our heavy day lift or some very, very close variation of the bench press, maybe a pin press or something like that that approximates the range of motion as well as the weight that we would use would be your heavy day lift. Your light day exercise typically would be your overhead press, just your basic regular standing overhead press, and then right in the middle of that in terms of both kind of the angle as well as the loading would be an incline press. Okay, I also like close grip bench presses on a medium day, but incline presses are probably my favorites as a medium day exercise. So if you're training a heavy, light, medium program right now and you're benching on your heavy day, you're pressing on your light day, and then say right now on your medium day you're just doing like a medium bench press, maybe sub that in with an incline bench press, because again, when we select these types of exercises for our light and medium days, you still train this exercise hard. Okay, so you would still train, even though it's your medium day movement, you're still going to train the incline bench press maximally, okay? And even at its maximal loads, it's still a medium day lift, okay? So that's my preference when I do heavy, light, medium programs, is I don't like to just do a lift light or do a lift medium. To me, that is just kind of the epitome of boring, to go in there and do a lift that I'm just kind of punching the clock and I'm not actually challenging myself to get more weight, more reps, whatever. So I like, and plus I just like the variety of doing different exercises as often as possible and not just repeating the same lifts over and over again. So I would much rather bench, overhead press, incline during the week than bench, overhead press, medium, flat bench, okay, for sets and reps that I pretty much know I can do. So I would go ahead and challenge yourself and maybe run that for 12 weeks and see what kind of progress you can get out get out of the exercise, and then see how your bench press and your overhead press are responding. Again, you need to run something for at least 8 to 12 weeks to be fair to the lift, to see if it's going to work for you or not work for you. So even if it doesn't work for you, it's still not lost time because you've learned something. Anytime you can kind of rule something out, whether it's an exercise or a programming method, anytime you can kind of rule something out as, okay, this doesn't work for me, then you have advanced in your programming, in my opinion. So you've gotten closer and closer to being able to program for yourself without the help of a coach. And to me, that's a very, very valuable asset to have, is to understand yourself so well that you can program for yourself. So give yourself a little bit of time with this exercise before you either keep it in or toss it aside. So the other ways that you can use the incline bench press is just as a supplement to the bench press. So say on a 4-day split where you've got your bench day, early in the week, and then later in the week maybe you have a press day. So we do all of our heavy flat bench work, and then maybe we toss in anywhere from 2 to 4 sets of incline presses after we bench, maybe in a little bit higher rep range, just as kind of a supplemental exercise. That's probably the most common way that most people do it. They bench press and then they're already warmed up and they go in and do an incline bench press next. Also on like a 4-day split, you can swap out an incline bench in exchange for a bench press. Okay, so it can, especially once you get strong on the exercise, it can supplant the bench press, and that might be, maybe it's just on an every other workout basis. So one workout, you would bench press, flat bench press heavy, and the next workout you would incline bench, and just every other week you would flip flop back and forth. I know in some of my power building type programs that I give out to people, what I'll tell them do is, like, say week 1 on your bench day is week 1 you would flat bench press, flat barbell bench press, and then you would follow that up with incline dumbbell presses, and then the following week you would flip flop it. So you would start with the incline barbell press, and then the second movement would be a flat dumbbell bench press, and just doing that every other workout. Or you could do one or the other for extended blocks of time. So maybe you go anywhere from 3 to 6 weeks working the flat bench really hard and the incline second, and then switch and spend another 3 to 6 weeks working the incline bench really hard and doing the flat bench second. So you can do that as well. So that's the basic ways to do it. Those are my 2 favorite ways to do it, as a supplemental movement, either following the bench press or rotating back and forth with the bench press on your heavy bench day, or as a medium day exercise in your heavy, light, medium day program.